Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a fabulous episode, a very special March episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I am joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming, who was not here last week. So, hello. I hope your house is more empty and you have more free time for games now.
Yes. Much more time. I hear Lex took the hot seat.
Yeah, he jumped in and it was really fun. We just talked
Nice.
all about our OSR stuff and various Kickstarters that we were excited for because I think you knew this, but February was Zine month. So there were like a whole bunch of really cool zines that were on Itch and stuff, and I backed a few of them here and there. And yeah, speaking of zines, what's this?
Zine, one of my Kickstarters came in, so this would have been a perfect topic for last week. I'll just get into it. This is Dungeoneering from the Quest Zine OSR. Nate Whittington was the author of this. Grinning Rat Publications. He lives here in my hometown.
Oh, sweet.
So
Very
when
cool.
I saw this being Kickstarted, I'm like, hey, somebody's building a game in my town. I'm going to Kickstart it. So I just got that in the mail on Friday.
That's awesome. And I bet you saved a lot of money on shipping.
Probably. He could have walked it over.
That's super cool. I backed, I didn't back. I bought a zine called Dragontown. And then I found out that the author, who's JP Cuvit, I think is his name, or maybe it's French and you don't pronounce the V's, I'm not sure. But he follows me on Instagram and was just like, hey, I wrote that. And I'm like, you did. I bought that. And he's like, hey, I'll send you some more. So he found out my address from sending me the other one, and he sent me a whole bunch of his other collection stuff. And so
Cool.
I'm going to read through them all and then probably do a video or something on it. But that was really nice of him. So
Yeah.
So in the world of D&D news, if you're new here, we're a D&D talk show where we kind of talk about news and just little things that are in the tabletop RPG community, lots of Dungeons & Dragons. And the next book that we know of coming out on 10 days away on March 15th is
March 15th.
Call of the Netherdeep. And this is the Critical Role Campaign 3 specific, not a gazetteer. It's not, it's like
adventure.
both. It's an adventure, but it also has a bunch of information on that continent. And I guess that's how they have been enjoying lately. It seems like the books that they've been creating have been like that, where it's not just a campaign world to go play in. It's usually like most of an adventure and then a lot of like little things that you can do here and there. So I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about this other than D&D Beyond doing, or Wizards of the Coast doing interviews with Matt Mercer. Maybe they're hyping it up more on the Critical Role show, but it seems even then I hear that they're doing Elden Ring one-shots, so everyone's playing Elden Ring these days.
That seems to be everywhere. Every time I jump onto YouTube, YouTube wants me to watch 55 different Elden Ring videos for some reason. Like, one's not enough. It's got to show me all of these other content creators that are making them for some reason. It's crazy. It has hit the space pretty hard, the gaming space pretty hard. But there's a lot of good games out there. And yeah, I didn't think, when I watched the show a couple weeks ago, I don't even think they mentioned Call of the Netherdeep that I can remember. So I wouldn't say there's a big hype train. There's definitely some videos on D&D, their YouTube channel. There's D&D Beyond has some stuff up for it, but that's about the only places I've seen it. I haven't seen a lot on Twitter about people talking about, I can't wait to start my Netherdeep campaign, or I haven't heard about Netherdeep live shows starting,
and I wonder if it's because I'm not in that that Critical Role Twitterverse as much as I am in the tabletop RPG Twitterverse. But part of me also feels that I feel like the entire community has taken a pause to play that video game, Elden Ring. And
can't talk about nothing
it's
else.
funny how you said your YouTube is blowing up with Elden Ring. So is mine, but also the Steam Deck, because everyone's talking about all of that too. So it's been a big like video game push for the last, I don't know, a couple weeks. And my personal gaming group here in town, they're all playing it on PS5. And so our regular D&D chat has turned into just like all of the Elden Ring secrets that they find. So it's kind of interesting.
Very interesting. Well, I mean, it looks good, and I think it's something that maybe I want to get into eventually. But before that, I was getting into Lost Ark, which was kind of, the popular thing 2 weeks before that. Just as, some of the other stuff was dropping, and I'm still having a great time with that. I'm still playing Path of the Righteous. I'm still playing some of these other cool games that have just come out also. And there's just so little time to play so many games.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and that's both with tabletop games as well. But I wanted to bring it back to that tabletop. The idea of it is that Elden Ring is a Souls game. So it's like Dark Souls. It's supposed to be really punishing, and you get you die a lot, and you're supposed to learn from your deaths and things like that. And Cody from Taking 20 had an interesting tweet where he was kind of, well, I shouldn't say criticizing, but he was comparing, like, people love this, like, gritty, dark, I can die at a whim kind of concept in a video game, but when you apply that to D&D, they get all upset because they die. And I chimed in saying, well, if you had a respawn system so that you didn't lose your character, maybe that gritty death would be more interesting as, like, how do I actually overcome this monster? And so it got me thinking. I know that there's a Dark Souls tabletop RPG that's based on 5e that's going to come out or has been released, or I think it'll be released soon. I saw Ted had a video on it on Nerd Immersion. But do you think that's viable? Like, do you think that you could have this repeated death kind of concept in a tabletop RPG, or I should say in a D&D kind of setting?
I was just going to say, well, sure, it's called OSR. And there's a whole community that loves it and will play it, and they want to play 0 level funnels all day long and all night long. So they love the idea that their farmer dies or one of their guys makes it, but their other 3 didn't. I think when you added the caveat Dungeons and Dragons game, I think that pulls in the different, I want to be a superhero, or I put a lot of investment in a single character.
Yeah.
So there is where I think it falls if you can't play that character again. And I think Elden Ring would be the same way. If that character died and it just erased everything and said, okay, create your new character, I don't know if so many people would be, on board as much as they are with it. Being able to go back and try again, go back and try again.
Yeah, and
go
that's
back and try again.
Kind of the roguelike aspect, right? Where you see how far you can get, and then you die, you have to start over from the beginning. And I want to like those kind of video games, but I find that I don't. And a perfect example, I think, is I've talked about it before, but Caves of Qud, Caves of Qud.
Caves of Qud.
And you start a character, and I have never gotten past like level 3. Maybe I got to level 4 once. Because ultimately I overextend because I'm kind of just like exploring because it's an exploration game, but then you get punished for that, and then you have to start over. And then the world is like randomly generated, so it's not like I can go back to that place that I know, very familiar kind of a thing. They've since then implemented a bunch of stuff where you can now have save checkpoints at settlements. And I started a new game with that concept, and I still have died a lot, but because of that checkpoint system, I'm now like level 15 and really enjoying the game in a whole new like level, like a whole new way. And so I don't know, but I was wondering if, and then another person on Twitter was talking about, why don't we have save points in D&D? Like, did you ever consider that? And I was like, no, but that would be kind of cool to have like that crystal that, I don't know, reincarnates you or regenerates you with all of your items or something. And at its heart, it is a game. Why don't we video gamify the experience? So that's my like little thought for the day. Got me thinking all the Elden Ring stuff.
Don't video gamify my tabletop game.
You don't have to play my game. That's fine. So. But speaking of video games, Baldur's Gate 3 has a release date. It's not out. It was always in early access, right?
Yeah, it's been in early access for a while.
A long time, because I thought it was maybe they released it too early, because I feel like early access should be like 6 months maybe, but this has been like 2 years.
It feels like it's been a year, 2 years. Yeah. Early access. And it came around just because they just recently did their panel from Hell, which I think was a 1 year anniversary or a 2 year anniversary or whatever. And they had mentioned that, the main director feels like, looking at everything they've got, they still have about a year's of work left. They just released in their last patch the barbarian class. So they brought a whole nother class.
Are they trying to get all the classes in?
Maybe some people have speculated that. I don't know if they're going
to. But they've never
said
like.
But they're still missing like monk, paladin, and bards. So it's possible either some of those come in, all of them come in a year, or only one of them or none of them. Possibly if they just want to keep, changing the game. The brand new UI. So if you did join the early play back in, like we did it back in almost like a year ago, it feels like, and if you play it now, it definitely will look different. And definitely they've tightened a lot of stuff up. They fixed a lot of bugs. So it's definitely one of those things you could go back and you could try again and see some of how it's improved from the first time you tried it if you did that. So I thought that was interesting. It's so maybe a 2023 March release, maybe about a year out is what they're thinking. They did say the whole, it'll be out when it's done kind of thing, which is kind of what some, game designers like to say when they want to say, our game will be out when we get it finished.
Well,
that's
and
when it's ready.
It's because you can't put a date on it. Like,
the
minute you put a date, you rush it. And so they're just like, I don't know, like, why not? But, somebody in chat was just saying they're getting free QA, like, basically, or you're paying them to test their video game as what actually is happening. So, and I've never really understood early release. I don't think I've ever bought an early release game. I get frustrated downloading free demos when the demos don't work correctly. So I don't think I would want to pay for something and then be like, oh, this is not working. But it's weird, the hype around that game, because I feel like it's out and is done and gone. When it actually releases, I wonder if there's going to be like a renaissance of people playing it again, or if it's just
has everybody that wanted to play it already have it now? So
that's I guess my point.
The actual launch look like?
But who's still streaming this on Twitch, and will they be doing it again once it's like officially released? Like, I don't see that happening, but I don't know. Maybe
not true. There is actually, surprisingly enough, and I've just been kind of diving into it the last few months. There's a really big CRPG community out there. People that love the Baldur's Gate.
The isometric RPGs. Yeah.
Divinity.
They love those,
and they're playing them all the time. They're doing speed runs. They'll do hardcore modes. They'll do special runs. They'll do, I want to try this class, so I'm going to do this full class playthroughs. And there's just whole channels dedicated to.
And I didn't mean like.
So there's a big community that watches.
There is a big community.
I'm watching it right now.
I don't mean that who's streaming this on Twitch. I shouldn't have said that, because there will always people stream everything on Twitch.
Yeah.
But there are those. There's big swaths of gamers that just grab onto the latest big video game, and they play that because people want to watch the latest big video game. I don't think that those people will pick up Baldur's Gate 3 once it's officially released, but I don't know. You're right.
There's all these 8-year-olds that were only 8 when it first came out, and they'll be 10, and they'll be ready for a CRPG.
They'll be 16 when Baldur's Gate 3 is done.
And now they're really, into that kind of thing, when before they weren't. They were no, I don't know.
So, but I agree with you. I love those types of games, those isometric RPGs, and I love playing older games in general, like the Baldur's Gate 2 and Planescape Torment was a lot of fun to go through, and I've replayed Neverwinter Nights. I can't tell you how many times. So
and right now it's kind of my go-to if I want to have something playing while I'm doing something else, and I can listen to somebody going through a Baldur's Gate run or going through the one I've been watching the most has been the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous one. I've been watching a ton of that, of different people playing it, different ways they went through it, different choices they've been making. And just seeing different things. And I like to just have it off in the side, because you don't have to pay attention to it directly, but it can be going and you can see an interesting part. And they're usually long. So if you're ever looking for like long form, I just want something that while I'm doing my other work and I just, like listening to the radio almost, I like to just listen to these CRPG playthroughs and stuff. So I'm watching and listening to a bunch of them right now.
Yeah. As I've been playing more video games, I find myself listening to more actual play podcasts, because it is something that I can kind of just like listen to and catch the fun parts, and it's nice to have something on in the background, kind of a thing. So
so that's pretty cool. I thought I think the barbarian class looks pretty cool. They did have the 2 subclasses, Wildheart and Berserker were the 2 they chose, which was interesting. If of all the ones that they could choose, and the one that I think they have access to everything D&D allows, so they really could
Yeah.
choose anything at that point. So
Yeah,
I
there's
think those are
probably
interesting.
like a contract thing, and a lot of those classes maybe weren't ready, but by the time that they were taking them. But it is interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if they look at it as game designers and devs and wonder, this will be easier to put into our existing framework of code than this weird concept of like the Feywild barbarian or something. So.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that, and then a little bit of what's unique or maybe what would be fun in the context of our game, whereas maybe the Wild Heart fits pretty well versus if you tried one of the other barbarians, maybe it didn't, what was it like? Trying to think of the one I played was the Ancestral Spirit one, but I forget the full name of it. But that was the ability you got. You could call your ancestors in to come and help you fight, which I thought was a cool concept for a barbarian. So interesting. So I'm planned to play it again because I want to see the new UI. They've tightened up all of the recordings they did, the voiceover stuff. There's a lot of the glitchy enough stuff is gone. So I'd like to just see, and because I've already played through, I don't know, 2 or 3 classes for several hours just to see how they play. So it'd be fun to jump in and play some barbarian too.
What about the that other one that you were playing? What was that one called? Solasta? Have you done that still?
Now, Solasta I haven't gotten back to because the Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous has taken up more of my time. So it's like I want to go back to it, and I think they released some more DLC, and there's still a big group of people that like playing that one too. But the Pathfinder one, if you had to ask me which is the best one so far, I think it's that Pathfinder one. It inches ahead of Baldur's Gate 3 for me right now. And it's definitely ahead of Solasta, Divinity Original Sin, some of those other ones that have come out before. It's just done so well for Pathfinder stuff. And it's so interesting on the amount of classes is just bonkers. And the amount of subclasses is bonkers. And the stuff you can do.
And it's stuff we haven't seen because Solasta took the open game license and then they made their own stuff. So it's 5e, but they really have been making their own stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I did see a short article we bumped over, and maybe you guys talked about it in last week's show, but the starter set that I saw it was confirmed. Like the Wizards of the Coast
I assumed it was.
I haven't
heard about it though.
But several like article news agencies reached out to them and got a confirmation from Wizards of the Coast that it is real.
Cool.
They just haven't announced it yet, and we haven't gotten anything else on it, but it's definitely real.
Yeah, because we were talking like, do they really need one? But then we were talking that probably sells better than like regular books, and then every purchase of a starter set is probably almost a guaranteed purchase of a player's handbook.
Some other book, or
So
exactly,
it makes a lot of sense that they would do another one. I was just like, well, I thought you'd double down on your other stuff, but as rules are changing, they want to bring the latest and greatest out there. So,
yep, and I mean we're getting Call of the Netherdeep. But I haven't seen anything. Maybe I went around looking in our leaks area. I went on Twitter trying to find any leaks. I went around the internets. Have you heard anything through your web of
my circles of spies that I have at Wizards of the Coast? No, I have not heard anything either. And I think it was unusual that we got information last year about Strixhaven so late and things like that. I think that was unusual because they needed to release the playtest material, and that playtest material was so obviously Strixhaven that they just announced it early. So I think with this, I think after this Netherdeep book is released is when they will be like, hey, we have these one or other products on the line coming out soon. Mm-hmm. Because it's easier to, and they haven't been doing hype, but I was going to say it's easier to hype up this product before you get people excited about the other product that they have to wait like 3-4 months for,
Right. Right.
But lots of talk about the 50th anniversary, and D&D 5.5 and a new version and all this other stuff. And so and
yet we're in March and we've heard nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's rumored and things like that. So we'll just have to wait and see.
That's crazy. I'm surprised.
I don't have an idea. Like, I think the last idea we got the last playtest that I remember was the new races that were kind of Spelljammerish. There was like an ooze and a mechanical gnome and things like that. And it's weird to be like, Spelljammer confirmed, because it's so bonkers that I'm like, I don't think that they would do that. But I can't see those races being in maybe a Magic the Gathering setting that I'm not aware of. I don't know, or something. Could be. But and I still think Kryn is coming. I still think Dragonlance is coming.
Oh,
because
I think it's not.
No, you don't think so? I think
there's no Dragonlance coming.
Okay.
I could be totally wrong, just like you're saying. I'm convinced there's Starjammer coming, but I know there's a lot of people that are skeptical because obviously they've made it a meme and a joke this whole time. So it wouldn't. I mean, so most people are like, it won't surprise me if they never do it. I'm convinced they're gonna do it, but I'm also, for whatever reason, I'm convinced they're not doing Dragonlance just because of the problems they had with the whole thing. That I feel like they just want to wash their hands of it and don't want to have any more legal problems or any of it. They would just rather let it go and we're moving on.
Well, and I guess I want to point out that they, Drunken Yoda was saying like, well, what would their new take on Spelljammer be? And he's like, maybe a mix of Spelljammer and Planescape. And that's probably what we're going to see, is like, I don't know, just like a big kind of mesh of those two settings together somehow, so that you can
some type of planes hopping, but they
planes hopping through space, maybe using a Spelljammer ship to go to other places. Yeah, totally. I think that's what's gonna happen. But with now I lost my train of thought. It was don't read chat, Jordan. Get lost in your thoughts.
Darn it, Drunken Yoda.
Legal troubles. I don't
legal
remember.
troubles. Yeah.
Anyway. I still think Dragonlance is coming because it's one of the... Oh, I was going to say, I don't think that Dragonlance... I think Dragonlance is going to happen because it's one of those properties like Spelljammer or Dark Sun or all those others that they own. They don't need approval from Margaret Weiss or Tracy Hickman and all those people. They contracted Tracy and them to write a book, but they don't need them because they own it. Kind of like how they like to drop Ed Greenwood's name every once in a while, but they don't need Ed Greenwood. They can do whatever they want to the realms, and they have. And so because of that simple fact that they own it, I think that they will be... I think it will be at least in some way presented. Maybe it's going to be part of another book, like this weird Planescape book that might come out or something like that. Maybe it'll be a section in there. And I think also because it's been mentioned so many times specifically in the last Dragon book that came out, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons mentions that area specifically, and Fizban is a Dragonlance character. So, I don't know. But Tasha's a Greyhawk character, Mordenkainen's a Greyhawk character, and we still don't have Greyhawk, so you're right.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to correct you on one piece there. I don't know if they contracted them. I think those authors went to Wizards of the Coast and said, we want to write a continuation of novels. Can we make a deal? I don't think it was Wizards of the Coast going to them and saying, hey, it's been 15 years and there hasn't been Dragonlance novels. You guys ready to do them now? I think it was the other way around. I think the authors wanted to do more writing and they finally were able to get a deal with Wizards. Maybe somebody can research that. That was my impression, but
I don't know.
It wasn't that Wizards was trying to drag it out of the vaults and say, hey, let's make it popular again. It was that the authors who had popularized it wanted to do more and were given a deal to do it, but then that deal fell through and then it got reworked and then it was given to them, I thought, in the settlement.
Well, they settled out of court. We don't know what the settlement is, but Wizards of the Coast is still publishing the book for them. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So they are still getting paid to write a book for Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or one or more, really. Wasn't it a deal for a couple?
It might be 3. I don't know. Yeah.
I think that was the whole thing. Yeah. We'll know when they actually release, I guess. We'll get to see them. And
which is later this year, I believe. So.
Yeah, they're hard to read if you go back and read the old ones these days. I'm hoping the new ones will be.
You didn't like the original?
Have you gone back and read them?
I've read the first one. Yeah, Dragons of Autumn Twilight or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like it felt like really old fantasy fiction to me, like it was back in the day when it was kind of just starting out, and it didn't feel like the refined George R.R. Martin, Brandon Sanderson, full on fantasy writers that we have these days.
Well, different writing styles, I guess, for different people.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I like some of the older stuff, but I don't know.
But there's a style to it, I guess.
I guess so.
Saying.
Yeah,
and
you're
they're
right.
Still in that. Yeah.
I've been wanting to read Patrick Rothfuss because I hear those are really
Everybody
good.
loves Patrick.
But I want now that
Pat.
cat's out of the bag, I want to talk about Brandon Sanderson, who I have never read one of his novels. I have never read a Brandon Sanderson novel, and within 2 days, he started a Kickstarter for some secret novels that he wrote during the pandemic.
Yeah, I've got the page up right now.
Yeah, and within 2 days, he became the highest funded Kickstarter ever, and he still has like 27 days to go for this,
Yep.
and it's at 22 million as last I looked.
So 98,000 backers right now, and I'm watching the thing spin. 721.
Yeah.
It's at 23,545,800. and 800. 545 and 900.
Yeah.
It's
So-
just like it's just going and going.
And just like
23
other
million.
Kickstarters we've seen, once it's in the news because it's the highest grossing whatever, like it's gonna get more. Like it's just snowball. It's gonna snowball down a hill is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But man, for a novel, like, and I'm just like, is this Brandon Sanderson guy really this good? Like, I need to check out his novels, I guess, because I'm just like, what? But again, my friends are just like, you really do need to read some of his novels. They're super good. And so it's on my reading list now.
I have not added any of his novels to he's on my list of things I want to dive into because he writes so many things.
Yeah.
But he's been on my radar all of a sudden this last year because when we started talking last year about you were making your adventure and I was starting to do a little bit of story writing and I was trying to figure out what that looked like or how that worked. He does a professorship at BYU or some school like that, college, teaches a class on fiction writing, fiction writing, and he puts them up on YouTube. So I was like, oh, and then it was like, oh, it dawned on me. He took over for Robert Jordan after, I love that series. And I'm like, and then I watched the show on Amazon. And so I was like, all these things just kept pointing me more and more back to Brandon. And I'm just like, oh, okay. A lot of my friends have read his books and they love them and they can't wait for more of the series. And then it was funny listening to him talk because he's so prolific. Like he is like this machine of a writer. And you should go watch his video because he explains it probably better than me or Jordan ever would of those that haven't read his books yet. But he just pumps books out left and right.
Well, and that was the thing I'll summarize the video, but you should go watch it. It's kind of fun. Where he introduces the Kickstarter, but basically he's like, so normally I am writing, but then a huge chunk of my time is to travel and promote my books and to go to conventions. But because of COVID, he's like home more, and he just got inspired to like write extra books, and he wrote a whole slew of extra books in the last 4 years. And I was like, I don't know. But if that's your only job, and I guess if it's also your passion. And so he was in a position where he was like, well, I guess I'll just write. But I'm blown away because I struggle with getting simple adventures written to put out into the world or to write for my home table. But I'm also working a 8 to 5 job trying to put food on my table for my family. So yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm just blown away by that man's the ability to do that. Like, even if they're terrible books, which I doubt they are, to say I wrote 4 novels in 2 years is kind of like, okay, like that's crazy.
Most people might write one novel in many years versus something like that. So he has definitely made me feel like, man, I should try to accomplish a little bit more. I could put a little more effort into stuff. I could try to finish something. I could start a million things. Can I finish anything? I'm inspired by it. I also have backed it. I got the e-file versions as one of the levels and the audio files. So if I can do either one when they finally do come out. He did put another video out that kind of talks a little bit about the first secret book, but I think I'm going to stay away from most of that stuff. I'm just going to be surprised. I'm going to read it from, scratch. I don't know much about it, and then I'll dive in. And I'm sure it's going to be great. And I'm sure it's fun. And I'm glad that he's going to be this successful. He works really hard, and he seems to be a really, truly nice guy. Teaches college courses so other people can become writers if that becomes their passion. So, why not, have a great $23 million Kickstarter. I mean, he just got to work with Amazon as, a consultant on the Wheel of Time show. So,
yeah,
it's like good for him. And I'm glad that, it's working out for him. And maybe we'll get some shows off his books. Maybe that's what's going to be in the future.
Yeah. I wonder how quickly we're going to create I think his world or universe is called Cosmere, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
And I am like, well, when is this Cosmere tabletop RPG world going to come about? Or we're going to play it in the Cortex system, or Wizards is going to hire him to make a supplement book of Cosmere. And so, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
I thought that was pretty cool. And it just came out of the blue, just kind of out of nowhere, which was fun. And I subscribed to his channel. I don't know. I want to say about 3 months ago. So I keep watching his videos that he pops up, and he does a podcast with another author. And while he's doing it, he's signing books. This guy is a machine at signing books, right? He is they're bringing stacks in, and he's just going through them. And they do like an hour-long podcast because while he's signing, he's talking to the other author, and they're just going over maybe shows they watched or stories they're thinking about or just whatever's going on. And it's funny to watch that. And those are the ones that were popping up. And then all of a sudden this one pops up. He says, I have to come clean. He plays the whole joke of, he's done something terrible. And I was like, oh no, what did Brandon do? Now I'm going to have to hate Brandon. Is that what's going to happen? I was like, oh God, thank God it wasn't that.
So yeah,
cool.
It's really cool. I think that's awesome. And I hope, I just like how these $1 million Kickstarters for tabletop RPG stuff started flooding Kickstarter. I'm now wondering how many fantasy authors are going to flood Kickstarter with their hey, you could like get my book and use the same format as him because it was so successful. But we'll see. I mean, he had a lot of clout behind him to start this. He wasn't a nobody, obviously.
Yeah, definitely the power of somebody who is famous then to decide to do like a Kickstarter has ginormous potential, right? Because I mean, at this point, like most of the things we see, there might be 10,000 backers, or maybe you've got 6 or 1,000 backers,
500 backers.
Pretty,
like, there's lots of people that have
successful.
like they have like $1,000 Kickstarter or a $500 Kickstarter, and you get like your 85 backers, and you're good.
You're good to go.
But we don't see a lot of those.
Almost 100,000 people ready to back. So when you have that kind of, it'd be like, I guess, like a big movie star or a big musician or somebody just, like if Taylor Swift said, "Hey guys, I want to kickstart my next album" or something.
Yeah.
The amount of fans they have to bring to the table could just
and I like that.
Crazy.
They put the power back into the artist,
back into the fans and the artist, and get rid of all these other
we don't need middlemen to tell us what kind of music to make and stuff. So
that's right, middlemen, get out of there.
Get out of here. What are you doing? You're in the middle. It's so annoying.
In the middle.
So before we end the discussion on him, I have been working on a video on the types of magic in not only D&D but like role-playing games in general. And that's how I discovered Brian Sanderson, because he has Brian Sanderson's 5 Rules of Magic, and it's 4 books, novels, fantasy novels. But I really like that you could take those same principles and apply it to a game mechanic, a fantasy game. So, and it's interesting to then let's take the world of D&D, and that magic system is very broken down. And the more I studied that, the more I'm like, it really makes sense that Eberron is a thing. Because casting a fireball is the same every single time. It's a very repeatable experiment. And if you had something that was that repeatable and that like I can do this consistently the same way every single time, it would become industrialized, which is what Eberron is. And so I was like, I have a lot more respect for Eberron, and it's not just kind of a and we have this other campaign setting. It really does fit the rules of D&D a lot better than you would think. So
yeah, and I think as a dungeon master, you could benefit from listening to how he creates books, structures stories, thinks about stories and characters and plots, because that's kind of what we're doing in our games for our players. And it's useful to have some of the knowledge that the writer has to be able to go back to your campaign that you're building and maybe really make a really cool story. So he's kind of relevant for what we do too, not just being, a fantasy author, but also can be a lot of his points are things that we can bring into our games and, have fun with our players and our stories that are being told. So.
And I incorrectly said Brian Sanderson. Sorry, Brandon Sanderson.
Brandon.
Got my B names mixed up. Yeah, what else do you want to talk about?
Well, I did have Pathfinder news. A little bit of it was Inevitable Excess is the new DLC out for Wrath of the Righteous. So that just came out. It's an story extension, which leads you a little bit deeper into the story. One thing that most people are saying they like about it is in the original game, when you play all the way through it, you get your mythic path, which is this like super crazy powered thing that you can become and choose throughout the game. But you get it at the very end, just before you're about to do like the last battle. You do the last battle and then you're done, right? So you didn't get a lot of time to use this mythic ability, angel or demon or necromancer or whatever it was that you chose. And so this adventure allows you to play a little bit more in with those powers and see what those abilities can do and see the kinds of high powered craziness you can get up to. So I thought that was kind of cool. Big patch came out to fix a bunch of stuff. I'm still loving it and going through it. I'm still in the beginning areas, but building characters and taking them through and see how they are. Like, how does a cavalier do it? How does a druid do it? How does a how does a bard play through this? And it's just fun going through and seeing the different combinations and things that you can do. And then for the tabletop version, I went and looked out. Right now, the big thing out is Lost Mammoth Valley, which is their next adventure path. It's the second of the third in a series, so there's going to be 3 of those. There's a bunch of Pathfinder Society adventures getting released this month, and they're doing a big build-up in March of just adventures and those kinds of books. And then I believe in April or May is when their next big book comes out, which is the Dead... Book of the Dead, I believe, is the next big one that they have coming out, which is super cool. I was excited because we were talking about computer games, and it's related to Dungeons and Dragons because it's Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and they're doing a Dungeons and Dragons themed with guns.
It's a Dungeons and Dragons themed Borderlands expansion, right?
Yeah. And she's running a adventure, and the players are playing it. That's kind of the meta story that's going around it. But then you get to go in and you get to actually play this cool, fun game. That releases on March 24th, so I'm looking super forward to that. So that was the big thing. And then I saw when I was just clicking around, did you watch the Dragon Prince Netflix show?
Yeah, so that was created by the Avatar: The Last Airbender people, I think.
I believe so.
I was watching it. I didn't finish it. So I think I got halfway through it, maybe. I don't know. Like season 1. I don't know if there's multiple seasons. I didn't get very far. Mostly because I just don't watch a lot of TV. And now my TV is taken up with Sesame Street. But I did like what I saw. It was a fun world. I liked that the elves had just less fingers than normal. But Fandom, which is, they own D&D Beyond. They're releasing the game they've been working on for a while, right?
Yeah. So it's coming out, and it's called Tales of Xadia, and it is a tabletop version of that game built on what they're calling the Cortex system. I haven't played or seen what the Cortex system is. And they're going to have on the D&D Beyond website, they're going to have the rules and character creator, I believe.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to get
to
see
so they're going to fully integrate it into their online stuff, but it is a tabletop game that you can just play. And I think Fandom bought Cortex. So Cortex was a system that was out there. And I'm going to compare it to a Monty Cook game, but only in this aspect, is that it is kind of like the Cypher system in that it is a game that is trying to cover a bunch of different genres. So
that makes sense.
It is not like, this is not the Dragon Prince game. It is the generic Cortex game that they are putting the Dragon Prince hat on to make it Dragon Prince. So it's got a flavor of this Netflix show. But I hear Cortex is okay. It kind of reminds me of, I've read the rules briefly, but it kind of reminds me of the cinematic universe system, which is commonly referred to on the internet as the Uni system and was really popular in the 90s. And I say popular, like RPGs have blown up so much since then, so it probably is not popular at all by today's standards. But the cinematic universe system was a way to say, I want to play Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or I want to play Ash versus the Evil Dead, or I want to play Krull, or all these movies that you like. How do we incorporate those worlds into a game? And the cinematic universe system allowed you to do that. And so Cortex is kind of like that. And to an extent, Cypher's kind of like that too, where you can kind of just play a bunch of different stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there is they bought Cortex from Margaret Weis? I didn't know that. Thank you, Victor. So apparently Margaret Weis Productions created Cortex and they sold it. So RPG DMC, we would have to look. I think it is a dice pool system, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, I know fandom is very excited about this because they want to buy license other properties and then create not only, here's the Dragon Prince, but then you could go to that website and do a drop down box because it's literally the same game of putting a different thing. And then I could play Futurama or, Simpsons or whatever license thing they get. And then you could play games in that world. So it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off.
It'd be interesting. I'm interested to see what the system is like. I always like seeing different systems. I know you're building your modular system, and you've played around with D6 systems. I've seen some interesting 2D20 systems. The Cypher system's a D20 system. D&D's the D20, but there's lots of
Star Trek
cool
is like 2D20, I think. And I like the Star Trek system a lot. I love the 2D20
with Modiphius's games. Use that quite often. So, in D6 systems, 2D6 plus stat, is your powered by the apocalypse kind of games and stuff, So I love just looking at the different types that you can get, and I'm glad there's a lot of variety out there. So if you have whatever fandom, you might, like you were saying, you could be Firefly, or you could be Doctor Who, or you could be, just anything. You can play these games. It can be Lord of the Rings. You could still play in this world. Use Codex.
The catch for me, I think, like we like crunchy stuff. Like I like building a character and kind of finding the niche of it. But I think if I was going to play, like, hey guys, we're gonna do a Doctor Who game, I really need very simple mechanics, and maybe that's where Fate
Tales
comes in and things like that. But I'm thinking of a lot of these games. I'm like, you can't make it complicated because I already have to have this knowledge of the Firefly universe in order to play in this thing. I can't. I don't know. I think that would be hard. You would have to be a very strong fandom to incorporate complex fights. And also,
right. But think of that. What would you say? I mean, obviously, you've done a lore channel on Forgotten Realms. But other than that, let's say I'm sure you have another fandom that you're a part of where you have a lot of knowledge. Maybe it's Pokemon. Maybe it's Magic the Gathering.
How dare you, sir? But go ahead.
I don't know. Shovel Knight. Maybe everything there is to know about. I know, because I know you get into some games that you dive right into, and it's probably one of the Nintendo games or the stuff you've been playing on Switch where you would all of a sudden say, all right, I can run a Breath of the Wild Zelda game because I just played 900 hours of Breath of the Wild. I know I can play this world. So, and if you have a system that can be so configurable, it doesn't matter what you want to do. It's there and ready for you to use. And you're that fan. Like me, it's Aliens, or it's me, Starship Troopers, or for that sci-fi stuff. And if it's fantasy stuff, I mean, I love George R. R. Martin. I'd love, I could do a Game of Thrones and know a lot about the different factions and the themes of those kinds of stories. I think would be really good. So it's
hard to build a generic system
or whatever.
And one of the things, if you go to cortexrpg.com, one of their one of their advertisements of this game is that not only are you building an RPG world, but you're also building characters and kind of the system. So you're taking this system and kind of making it work in different ways. If I had a bunch of my RPG like nerd friends who were all about that, I would love to sit down and be like, we're going to create not only a world together, not only characters, but like how the mechanics are going to work. Like, how do you want magic to work in this world? That would be really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't see that as a huge marketable thing, because oftentimes I'm struggling to get players at the table to be like, okay, guys, yes, no, that's a D12, roll the D20. I know they look similar, so it's kind of like,
Yeah.
And honestly, like, yeah, like you have those really weird, complicated games. Like, I still struggle with Invisible Sun to find people to play that, and so I don't know. It's kind of.
But if you get, like you said, the big nerds, you get like the Lex together, you get Ted, you're sitting around in a conference
like
room
the people that like
Gen
game
Con
design, they would be all about it for sure.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you could sink a lot of time into it for sure. Yeah. So those are the things I thought that was cool. I felt like it was a D&D light news cycle at the moment, even though we have a book coming out
March,
in 10 days. And we're waiting to see what the very next big hype thing will be. But I thought it was a good month, or starting to a month, of gaming news in general, even if it wasn't relative to Dungeons and Dragons itself. It feels like it's things are picking up, things are getting, there's lots of stuff to explore and try out depending on what your tastes are and what you like to play and what you like to do. So I was excited.
Yeah.
I am excited.
He's excited, guys. I wanted to briefly mention, because I always have to talk about Dungeon Crawl Classics, that Dungeon Crawl Classics 100, which is the adventures that Goodman Games have released, are in sequential order. Well, the adventures are not meant to be played in order, but every time they release a new one, they add a number to it. And this includes their old D&D 3.5 stuff. So D&D 3.5, when they first started, they were making adventures that way. And I think it was around the 60s that they started releasing Dungeon Crawl Classics adventures modules. And then the numbers just kind of kept going. Well, Dungeon Crawl Classics 100 is this huge adventure that they've been working on. It's called The Music of the Spheres is Chaos. And it's got some really cool, like, design things where there is a spinning wheel dungeon. So, like, while you're playing, you're going to have a physical prop wheel that you get to move around the table that's going to alter the dungeon or the story. So it's meant to be very replayable, like over and over is kind of the idea. And it looks really fun. Like, it looks really cool. That is currently in Kickstarter. It's got 6 days to go. I haven't really been talking about it, but they've raised $175,000, and I'm excited for it, so I backed it I think it's like a 55 level is what I did. So I'm going to get the box set and the PDFs, but they've got dice and all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Again, if you like DCC, I think this would be a really cool addition. So,
and who doesn't like DCC?
It's pretty fun.
Some people.
And then I still haven't been playing games. It's been so sad. I keep pinging people. I think DM Nathan is going to finish his campaign soon, and then we're going to start another one, but it might not be till April. So I'm going to have another month of like no games. And then my poor Dungeon Crawl Classics game people, they have been traveling and doing other stuff, and then people have been sick, and then they've been doing theater rehearsal. So we're not meeting this week, maybe next week, but I can never know. But we did announce this on the show last week that you weren't here for. The Rod of Seven Parts Banana Bunch is going to get back together.
Back together.
Yeah. So that is going to happen in May-ish, we think. And I'm going to start running those on probably Wednesday nights, and Ted will stream it again, and I'll release it as a podcast. So I've been plotting that, which I think is going to be a little fun.
Well, and realize for dungeon masters all around the world, I believe, well, I guess in our area, USA, this is the time where spring is moving into summer. People start doing lots of things outdoors, traveling, and they have a lot more options to do stuff. Yeah. So game nights kind of can suffer sometimes during the summer months of, we're going camping, or we're going on this trip, or
we decided if you're running a game on a weekend, that is the worst time because everyone's like, oh, actually I'm going camping, or, oh, I'm doing this. Like, you need to run on like a Monday or a Tuesday night because people will be like, I was working today. I'm not doing anything. Let's go play games. So
yeah. And I noticed, like, I think we're hitting that time again where maybe the attendance isn't so great. So just struggle through it again. Dungeon Masters, it's part of the cycle that I think we all go through when summer hits and there's a lot more activities that people can do. But, the game's always there for when people, the falls start to come in, the winters start to come in, and or even a camping trip. I think it'd be fun to plan a camping trip with friends, but then the whole point is to play Dungeons and Dragons in the woods while
That'd be kind of
camping
interesting.
and doing some fun stuff. And
I definitely would like
hiking and stuff.
Yeah. I definitely would like a cabin for that.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to play gridless, like Theater of the Mind, then you just need a box of some dice, and that could be a lot of fun around a campfire.
Even just a picnic table and have your stuff out, and everybody's cooking some s'mores, and you're rolling some dice at night, just having a good time. And I think that'd be a fun little
but when you drop that D4 into the dirt, and then you find it the next day by stepping on it, I don't know.
Yeah. So. That's the one you can always find because you'll step on it. It's the other ones that you never find again.
Yeah. But since I haven't played games, I'll just move on. But Lucian, what is going on in Dungeon of the Mad Mage?
Dungeon of the Mad Mage. We're on floor 10. We've been here for a bit, for a couple sessions or so. Lots of drow, which I wanted to rub in a little bit because you've been wanting to do a drow campaign. And we've had about as much drow as you could possibly have.
Super cool.
Point. So there's been a lot of it. They've all been annihilated at this point.
Oh, no.
For whatever reason. Our party is very drow, anti-drow. Although I think we did find a couple of drow we let go that were maybe just like in the wrong place at the wrong time. But then the bad faction was there and we're taking out the bad faction. We did rescue, spoilers, we knew if you come to this show, you're going to get a little bit of spoilers. We rescued a halfling band from this level, which I thought was a cool little thing to add.
What
to
is their name?
Campaign.
Like,
I don't remember if I don't even know if our group asked. Like, that's how dumb.
Oh man, I would have come up with
like,
some punny name. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
did they have white
tavern.
makeup? Were they mini Kiss?
Like that's what I wanted. But we want them to play at our bar because every time there's another level, I think it's third level, where there's the vampire reenactment group is down there, and you encounter them in the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and we've contracted them to work at our bar to do theme nights of vampire nights at our bar.
That's
so people
fun.
Can come and do stuff. So we're like, oh yeah, we could have a halfling band. How cool would that be? So we're trying to get them to be our band for our place too, because we're AC Inc. and we own the north quarter of Waterdeep at this point, which has been kind of a fun thing. But the levels have been good. We're in that 11th level, 12th level of character class, so we're starting to get into some of the good, powerful abilities. We're fighting lots of crazy creatures that we haven't seen before. Or haven't had to fight before, and now this one's a big level of drow stuff, so very drow themed, which is cool. So you get a lot of the creatures that might be around those types of things, giant spiders and driders and all this other stuff. And we're still going down. Hallister's still a crazy place. There, you never know what you're going to get on the next level. You never know what little storyline is running, what little mini kind of side adventures happening on this level as you're moving your way down. And so we're still going strong, still having lots of fun. I don't know if it's a midway point, because I think I've heard like 26 levels or 30 levels or something like that. So I don't know how far down we're going to get, but we're making a good run at it.
I want to say you're halfway-ish.
I think from the adventure point of view, probably halfway-ish, even though there might be more.
I think the rooms get smaller just for just to consistency. Who knows? Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know. I've only glanced at it briefly. It's a hell of a module. So
yeah, it's one that's allowing us to go through a long progression of characters, which has been fun and nice. And so you can really flesh out what that concept you had of your character and really live in that character. It's not just one shots or a couple of sessions and you're moving on to whatever the next game is. We've been with these characters for a long time now, so that's been super fun to build them. And we're we're over there building them in the company that sells the minis that you can have pre-ordered and then shipped to you.
Hero Forge, yeah.
Hero Forge. So
Yeah.
we got like serious full Hero Forged out miniatures and stuff.
It's awesome.
Make them look really good, and
That's my new go-to place when after I design a character on paper. I go there and then I start doing its physical features. So then I have a better idea of being like, oh yeah, he's got like a satchel on his side and like a dagger and like dark skin and but white beard, just so that because I'm really bad at describing my character. People are like, okay, you got a character. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I guess he's handsome. Well, I don't know. Like
he's loud.
He's loud.
He's bombacious. Yeah. So I think that's been super fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's on Tuesday nights. It's still on Danimal's channel. Our digital dungeon master from Down Under, our Australian dungeon master, which has been super fun. And I'm still getting a huge itch to run a game.
Yeah.
I really, really, really want to run a game. I'm really into Pathfinder 2e stuff at the moment and looking at the stuff. I really wish Nexus was up and ready to go for their character creator and stuff. They've got their rules set up and they've got their compendium stuff.
Well, have you tried in Roll20?
But they haven't. Yeah, I should go look.
You should go look. You like Roll20. You should try it out.
I love Roll20.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, Roll20.
There's probably not a character creator, but I bet you could get the basic rules, and then you could see how it connects together. So
they might have a character.
And it's D&D. It's not, but it is. Like you're overthinking this. You need to just go in and do it. So.
Yes, I agree.
But speaking of character creation, we've been talking on the Discord a lot about Worlds Without Number, which is a really cool RPG. Oh, yeah. And then I was thinking that a fun live stream would be like, let's just make a character using this system that I'm not familiar with,
Yes.
And then like through the live stream, you can just chat and kind of stumble through it. So I was thinking about doing a Worlds Without Number character and just create one and be like, I don't know, like how do we do that? I was thinking
that's a great show idea where you pick different systems and you just do hey, let's just create a character and see what it kind of looks like and see what we can figure out in any of these systems. And then the show would just be what system will we do next would be the next show. Oh, let's try a Cypher character. Or, I heard this Cortex.
No, I like that. I think that would be kind of fun.
Cortex one would be cool.
Nathan has a really good... He wants to know if Danimal, when he's DMing, when you cast Control Water, does it swirl the other way because of the hemisphere? We did ask him that. Oh, did you?
He says yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, it does.
It swirls like I like to call the non-American way.
Yeah, so. He actually has a bigger explanation for it, and I know it's because he gets the question so much from people Australian, and he's like, actually, the thing that controls it the most is the shape of the drainage. But if all things are equal, is the way he explains it, it does go the other way.
Let's go into the Coriolis effect. I would like to. Now I want to build a water mage called Coriolis. That would be fun.
Yeah. So he does go into it quite a bit, so it's always funny.
I love it. Awesome. Yeah, do it. Let's do a show where we just build characters. I think it'd be fun,
especially with people who kind of like it would be really good if you had some people that knew the system well in the chat with you, plus people that don't know it or just interested in it, plus you're just coming to it and you're like, okay, I want to pick this, and then you're like, oh, does that work? And then chat could be like, oh, no, this is how that thing works. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. I'll pick this point for that thing, or I'll do this thing for that. I think it'd be a really fun show.
It would also be really good to, or another idea that I think people would get out of this is to see how confusing or how well written the instructions for character creation are. Because you're looking at it, you're like, what's step one? I can't even find it. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I and so rather than having someone walk you through it, it would be interesting to see how well the text is written. So, or I could play Coriolis. I get you, Victor. It's okay.
I think it'd be super fun. I think I'd be all aboard. I'd be on board for a show like that, or even a live stream get together to do something like that, and we just knock out some characters and stuff. That'd be fun.
Okay. Well, tonight maybe when my my baby goes to sleep, I'll try to do a world building or a character building stream or something. So you guys can watch out for that. We'll see.
I'm gonna play Lost Ark.
Or I'll play video games again. That's the bad. I need to write scripts. I got to make more videos.
Scripts.
I think that's our show, though. Anything else you want to talk about?
I want to talk about everything, but this is a big day. It is. Let me check the temperature because in Michigan it has been super cold, so we've not gotten to do anything.
Michigan.
And it is currently outside 58 degrees. I'm going outside, buddy.
Spring is happening. DM's day was yesterday, but go tell your DM that they're awesome.
I told my DM today that
there's a bunch of sales on Drive-Thru-RPG. There's a humble bundle sale, lots of stuff going on, so go check those out.
For sure.
And I think that's it. We'll be back next week. We got 10 days to wait. So
Jordan,
it's first of the month. Got our siren. So funny.
I'm muting everything. Take us away.
All right. So we'll be back next week with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and take care.